Stories and Documentary Network. Rising from the ashes of Alexander the Great's fragmented dominion, one of the most formidable states of the Hellenistic era took shape. Spanning from Anatolia to the fringes of India, this vast realm became a melting pot where Greek and Eastern traditions interwove, forging a new cultural and political landscape. Founded by Seleucus I Nicator, a seasoned general of Alexander, the administration established firm control over extensive territories, blending Greek governance with local customs to maintain stability and influence. For nearly 3 centuries, this power struggled to preserve its dominance amid relentless conflicts, territorial ambitions, and internal discord. At its zenith, the dominion boasted an intricate network of cities, each serving as a nucleus for economic growth, governance, and intellectual exchange. Strategic hubs such as Antioch and Seleucia on the Tigris not only facilitated trade but also acted as conduits for the dissemination of Hellenistic ideals. Its geographic position allowed it to exert control over crucial trade arteries, fostering economic prosperity that fueled military expansion and administrative cohesion. However, despite the grandeur, persistent challenges arose. Dynastic feuds, uprisings, and external threats gradually destabilized the foundation, leading to eventual fragmentation. The remarkable odyssey of the Seleucid state traces its origins to the unparalleled conquests of Alexander the Great. His relentless military campaigns dismantled the Persian Empire, forging a vast realm that stretched from Greece to the Indus Valley. However, his untimely demise in 323 BCE plunged his empire into a chaotic struggle for supremacy. This period, known as the Wars of the Diadochi, saw his generals, each commanding significant portions of the conquered lands, clashing over the spoils of conquest. Among these ambitious leaders was Seleucus, a seasoned commander who would rise to establish a vast dominion of his own. As the Macedonian elite vied for dominance, alliances were forged and shattered in a series of brutal conflicts. The initial division of Alexander's empire at the partition of Babylon in 323 BCE granted Seleucus control over the cavalry and a minor satrapy. However, the realignment at the partition of Triparadisus in 321 BCE placed him in charge of Babylonia, marking the beginning of his ascent. Yet, his tenure in the region was far from secure. Rival claimants, including Antigonus I Monophthalmus, sought to expel him, forcing Seleucus into exile. His time in the court of Ptolemy I in Egypt proved pivotal, as he gained valuable support that would later aid his return. With military backing from Ptolemy, Seleucus reclaimed Babylonia in 312 BCE, an event traditionally recognized as the foundation of his dynasty. From this stronghold, he embarked on a series of campaigns to expand his influence, gradually annexing territories stretching from Persia to the Levant. His ambitions brought him into direct confrontation with other Diadochi, particularly Lysimachus and Demetrius, culminating in decisive battles that solidified his rule. The crowning moment of his expansion came after the Battle of Ipsus in 301 BCE, where the defeat of Antigonus allowed Seleucus to assert control over much of the Asian territories once held by Alexander. Despite his military successes, governing such a vast and diverse empire posed immense challenges. The regions under his rule encompassed a mosaic of cultures, each with distinct traditions and administrative structures. To secure loyalty, Seleucus adopted a pragmatic approach, integrating Greek governance with existing local systems. He established new cities, the most notable being Seleucia on the Tigris, which became a thriving center of administration and Hellenistic culture. These urban developments not only reinforced his power but also facilitated trade and cultural exchange across his dominion. Nevertheless, his empire remained vulnerable to internal strife and external threats. The eastern frontiers faced resistance from indigenous rulers, while the western territories remained in constant contention with other Hellenistic states. Additionally, the question of succession loomed over his later years, as internal rivalries and shifting allegiances within his court threatened stability. Though his assassination in 281 BCE marked the end of his direct rule, the foundations he laid endured, shaping one of the most influential realms of the Hellenistic world. With its foundations firmly established, the dominion founded by Seleucus I embarked on an era of territorial expansion and intricate governance. The vast lands under its control extended from the Mediterranean to the fringes of the Indian subcontinent, encompassing a diverse range of cultures, climates, and economies. Managing such an extensive domain required both military might and administrative acumen, leading to the creation of a sophisticated governing system that blended Greek principles with local traditions. A defining characteristic of this empire was its relentless pursuit of territorial dominance. Following his consolidation of Mesopotamia and Persia, Seleucus pushed eastward, seeking to reclaim the lands once subdued by Alexander. His campaigns reached as far as the Punjab, where he clashed with the Mauryan Empire, a formidable power in India. Recognizing the challenges of maintaining control over such distant regions, Seleucus brokered a diplomatic arrangement with Chandragupta Maurya, ceding territories in exchange for war elephants, a decision that would bolster his military strength in the western theaters of conflict. On the western front, the Seleucid state faced perpetual rivalry with the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt. These two Hellenistic powers engaged in a series of conflicts known as the Syrian Wars, each vying for supremacy over the Levant and the eastern Mediterranean. Despite intermittent victories, neither side could secure a decisive advantage, leading to a prolonged and costly struggle for dominance in the region. Meanwhile, in Anatolia and Greece, the empire navigated a complex web of alliances and hostilities, frequently intervening in disputes among the independent Greek city-states to maintain influence and prevent the rise of regional challengers. To govern its vast holdings, the Seleucid administration implemented a hierarchical system of provincial rule, reminiscent of the Persian satrapy model but infused with Hellenistic elements. Satraps, or provincial governors, oversaw large territories, ensuring the collection of taxes, maintaining security, and upholding royal authority. However, unlike their Persian predecessors, Seleucid rulers actively promoted Greek culture within these provinces, encouraging the establishment of new cities modeled on the polis system. These urban centers, such as Antioch and Seleucia on the Tigris, became bastions of Hellenistic culture, fostering the spread of Greek language, art, and philosophy. The fusion of Greek and indigenous traditions played a pivotal role in maintaining stability. While the ruling elite adhered to Hellenistic customs, they also recognized the necessity of integrating local practices. This approach allowed for a degree of continuity in governance, ensuring that Persian, Babylonian, and other regional bureaucratic structures remained functional under Greek oversight. Temples dedicated to Greek gods stood alongside native shrines, and administrative decrees were often issued in multiple languages to accommodate the empire's diverse population. Economic prosperity was vital to sustaining the state's military and administrative apparatus. Trade routes crisscrossed the empire, linking the Mediterranean world with the riches of Central Asia and India. The Silk Road flourished under Seleucid rule, facilitating the exchange of goods such as spices, textiles, and precious metals. In addition, extensive road networks and infrastructure projects enhanced commercial activity, while standardized currency and taxation systems ensured a steady flow of revenue to the royal treasury. The dominion carved out by the Seleucid dynasty was not merely a political entity but a dynamic melting pot where Hellenistic ideals intersected with the ancient traditions of the Near East. From the bustling metropolises of Syria to the farthest reaches of Persia, a profound cultural transformation unfolded, shaping societies, artistic expressions, and religious thought for centuries to come. One of the most enduring legacies of Seleucid rule was the dissemination of Greek culture across the conquered territories. The establishment of new urban centers played a central role in this process. Cities such as Antioch, Seleucia on the Tigris, and Apamea were not only administrative hubs but also conduits for Hellenization. Designed in the architectural style of the Greek polis, these cities featured grand theaters, gymnasiums, and agorae, fostering an environment where Greek customs, language, and philosophy could flourish. The ruling elite, along with a significant portion of the population, adopted Greek as the lingua franca, facilitating commerce, governance, and intellectual discourse across the empire's vast expanse. Art and architecture underwent a remarkable fusion during this period. While classical Greek aesthetics remained dominant, they increasingly absorbed elements from local traditions. Temples and public buildings bore intricate reliefs depicting both Hellenistic deities and indigenous divinities, symbolizing the gradual blending of spiritual and artistic influences. Sculpture and coinage often portrayed rulers in the idealized style of Greek heroes, yet subtle nods to Eastern iconography reflected the diverse cultural landscape. This synthesis was particularly evident in Seleucia on the Tigris, where Mesopotamian motifs coexisted with Greco-Macedonian artistic conventions, giving rise to a unique hybrid visual identity. Philosophy and learning flourished within this cosmopolitan environment. The Seleucid rulers patronized scholars, attracting intellectuals from across the Mediterranean and beyond. Antioch became a center of learning, where Greek philosophical schools engaged with Babylonian astronomy and Persian administrative sciences. This intellectual exchange not only enriched Hellenistic thought but also ensured the preservation and adaptation of Eastern knowledge within the broader Mediterranean world. Libraries and academies emerged, ensuring that ideas spanning from Stoicism to Zoroastrian cosmology found an audience among both Greek and non-Greek populations. Religious life under the Seleucid administration reflected a remarkable degree of syncretism. While Greek polytheism remained the official religious framework, local beliefs were not merely tolerated but often incorporated into the evolving spiritual landscape. Deities such as Zeus were equated with Mesopotamian and Persian gods, creating hybrid religious practices that appealed to both Greek settlers and native inhabitants. This blending of faiths fostered a sense of cohesion within the empire, allowing for the coexistence of multiple traditions under a single political umbrella. Temples dedicated to newly synthesized gods dotted the landscape, serving as both centers of worship and symbols of the empire's cultural adaptability. The Seleucid Empire's approach to cultural integration was not uniform. Regional variations persisted, shaped by historical traditions and the degree of Hellenistic influence. While coastal cities embraced Greek customs more readily due to their exposure to Mediterranean trade, inland provinces often retained stronger elements of their indigenous heritage. This delicate balance between Hellenization and local identity ensured the resilience of the empire's social fabric, allowing its diverse populations to engage with Greek ideas while preserving their ancestral customs. A realm as vast and diverse as the one forged by Seleucus I required an exceptional military apparatus to maintain its integrity. The armed forces that upheld the might of this empire were a testament to both strategic brilliance and adaptability, blending the martial traditions of Macedonia with the varied combat techniques of the East. The evolution of this war machine played a decisive role in both the ascension and eventual disintegration of the dynasty. At the heart of the military structure was the formidable infantry, modeled after the renowned Macedonian Phalanx. Armed with long spears, or sarissas, and clad in heavy armor, these disciplined formations served as the backbone of the Seleucid war effort. However, unlike the compact forces of Alexander, the rulers of this domain integrated troops from across their vast territories. Mercenaries from Anatolia, Iran, and Central Asia bolstered the ranks, creating an army that was as diverse as the empire itself. The cavalry, an essential component of the military, reflected the empire's vast reach and strategic ingenuity. Drawing upon the traditions of Persian and Central Asian warfare, Seleucid commanders deployed heavily armored cataphracts, shock cavalry that could smash through enemy lines with devastating effect. Alongside them rode swift horse archers, adept at harassing opponents with relentless volleys before retreating beyond reach. These mobile units granted the empire a strategic advantage, particularly in open-field battles where maneuverability was key. Perhaps the most iconic element of Seleucid warfare was the use of war elephants, a legacy inherited from their interactions with the Mauryan Empire. These massive beasts, clad in armor and carrying archers or javelin throwers atop their backs, could instill fear and chaos among enemy ranks. Deployed as living fortresses, they formed an imposing vanguard in major engagements, breaking formations and trampling adversaries underfoot. However, their effectiveness was contingent on careful deployment. As history would later reveal, their unpredictability could just as easily turn them into a liability. Throughout its history, the empire found itself locked in a series of relentless conflicts. Foremost among these were the Syrian wars against the Ptolemaic kingdom, a struggle that spanned generations. The control of Coele Syria, a region of immense strategic and economic importance, became the primary objective in these battles. Victories and losses fluctuated, draining resources and stretching the empire's military capabilities to their limits. The encroachment of Rome introduced another dimension to the empire's military challenges. The climactic confrontation at the Battle of Magnesia in 190 BCE marked a turning point. Despite their formidable war machine, the Seleucid forces faltered against the disciplined Roman legions, leading to a humiliating peace settlement that diminished their influence in the western territories. This defeat signified the beginning of a gradual erosion of power, as Rome's shadow loomed ever larger over the Hellenistic world. While external threats tested the empire's resilience, internal strife further weakened its military structure. Rebellions erupted across the eastern provinces, as satraps and local rulers sought autonomy. The Parthians, once vassals, capitalized on this instability, gradually carving out territories that had once been integral to Seleucid dominance. The shifting tides of power exposed the limitations of even the most sophisticated military system, as the sheer vastness of the realm made coordinated defense increasingly untenable. The legacy of the empire was shaped by a succession of rulers whose ambitions, triumphs, and failures defined its trajectory. From its founder, who laid the groundwork for a vast dominion, to later monarchs whose miscalculations hastened its decline, each ruler left an indelible mark on history. Seleucus I Nicator emerged from the chaos of Alexander's fractured empire as a master strategist and cunning diplomat. Having secured control over the eastern satrapies, he expanded westward, consolidating his authority through both military campaigns and political alliances. His policies encouraged Greek settlement across his dominion, forging a cultural synthesis that would define the Seleucid world. By the time of his assassination in 281 BCE, he had transformed his realm into one of the most powerful Hellenistic states, laying the foundations for an empire that stretched from the Aegean to the Indus. His successor, Antiochus I Soter, faced the immense challenge of maintaining unity within the diverse territories left by his father. Struggling with revolts and external pressures, he managed to stabilize the empire through a combination of military campaigns and administrative reforms. However, his reign was marked by an increasing dependence on local elites, signaling the gradual shift from central control to regional autonomy. Antiochus II Theos, his successor, inherited a precarious balance of power, which he attempted to reinforce through strategic marriages and diplomacy. Yet, internal strife and the continued rivalry with the Ptolemies weakened the empire's stability, setting the stage for future conflicts. A turning point arrived with the ascension of Antiochus III, known to history as the Great. A ruler of immense ambition, he sought to restore the empire's former glory through extensive military campaigns. His successes in Anatolia and the eastern provinces revived the image of Seleucid supremacy, but his confrontation with Rome proved disastrous. The defeat at the Battle of Magnesia in 190 BCE forced the empire into submission, stripping it of vital territories and imposing crippling financial reparations. Despite his earlier conquests, this encounter marked the beginning of Seleucid decline, as Rome emerged as an unassailable power in the region. The reign of Antiochus IV Epiphanes brought further upheaval. A ruler of remarkable audacity, he sought to impose Hellenistic cultural norms upon his subjects, particularly in Judea. His policies provoked the Maccabean Revolt, a conflict that would severely weaken Seleucid authority in the Levant. While he initiated significant construction projects and sought to revitalize the empire, his aggressive centralization efforts alienated key factions, fostering internal dissent that further eroded the empire's cohesion. The empire's existence was shaped by a relentless struggle against formidable rivals, both external and internal. From its earliest days, it found itself entangled in the prolonged conflicts of the Syrian wars against the Ptolemies, whose ambitions in the eastern Mediterranean rivaled its own. These clashes over the Levant, spanning 6 wars, drained resources and perpetuated instability, leaving both empires vulnerable to external threats. While occasional victories bolstered Seleucid authority, no conclusive dominance was ever achieved, ensuring that the region remained a battleground for generations. The growing influence of Rome introduced a new and insurmountable challenge. Antiochus III's bold expansion into Asia Minor and Greece led to direct confrontation with the rising Western power. Though initially successful in asserting control over former territories of Alexander's empire, the Seleucid advance was abruptly halted at the Battle of Magnesia in 190 BCE. Rome's crushing victory not only forced the Seleucids into a humiliating retreat but also imposed the Treaty of Apamea, stripping them of vast territories in Anatolia and placing severe financial burdens upon the state. This defeat marked a pivotal shift, establishing Rome as the ultimate power in the Mediterranean and curtailing Seleucid ambitions. While Rome crippled the empire in the west, a new adversary emerged in the east. The Parthians, a once subjugated people, capitalized on Seleucid weaknesses and steadily expanded their domain. Their highly mobile cavalry forces, coupled with a growing sense of independence from Hellenistic rule, posed an existential threat to the empire's eastern provinces. Despite several attempts by later Seleucid rulers to reclaim lost territories, the Parthian ascendants proved unstoppable, steadily eroding Seleucid influence in the Iranian plateau and beyond. Beyond these external pressures, the empire was also plagued by internal dissent. Provincial governors and ambitious generals frequently defied central authority, seeking autonomy or outright independence. The Jewish revolt under the Maccabees exemplified the growing resistance to Seleucid rule, illustrating how religious and cultural impositions could ignite rebellion. Other revolts erupted across various regions, further weakening the grip of the monarchy over its vast territories. As these challenges mounted, the Seleucid state found itself stretched thin, unable to effectively respond to the multitude of crises it faced. The combined impact of sustained wars, territorial losses, and domestic uprisings fractured the once mighty realm, paving the way for its eventual collapse. By the time of its final years, the decline of the Seleucid state was neither swift nor sudden but rather a gradual unraveling brought about by economic mismanagement, military deterioration, and the growing dominance of external powers. What had once been a formidable empire stretching across vast lands was reduced to a fragmented domain incapable of sustaining itself. The administrative structure that had initially facilitated expansion now became a source of weakness, as provincial rulers grew increasingly independent and local economies struggled under the weight of prolonged conflicts. Economic instability played a crucial role in the empire's downfall. The financial burden imposed by the Treaty of Apamea severely depleted state resources, forcing rulers to levy heavy taxes on an already strained population. Trade routes, once the lifeline of Seleucid prosperity, were increasingly disrupted by external threats and internal instability. The decline of commerce weakened urban centers, eroding the empire's economic foundation and diminishing its ability to sustain a standing army or fund large-scale governance. The military, once a key instrument of Seleucid dominance, suffered immense setbacks. The loss of key regions, particularly to the Parthians in the east and the Romans in the west, reduced the empire's ability to recruit and maintain a powerful force. Successive rulers attempted to compensate by relying on mercenaries and temporary alliances, but this only further fragmented their control, as external actors exerted influence over Seleucid affairs. The inability to defend critical strongholds led to the gradual disintegration of what remained of the empire's territorial integrity. Rome's growing intervention in the eastern Mediterranean sealed the Seleucid fate. Initially a distant power, Rome had decisively checked Seleucid ambitions at Magnesia, forcing the empire into submission. In the following decades, Rome increasingly dictated the political landscape, exploiting internal divisions and supporting rival claimants to the throne. By the 1st century BCE, the Seleucid rulers were mere pawns in a broader geopolitical struggle, their sovereignty eroded by the relentless expansion of Roman authority. The final collapse came as internal strife reached an unsustainable level. Civil wars between competing claimants to the throne left the state in chaos, while opportunistic neighbors seized remaining territories. By the time the last Seleucid ruler, Antiochus XIII Asiaticus, was deposed in 64 BCE by the Roman general Pompey, the empire was little more than a nominal entity. Its remaining territories were absorbed into the growing Roman Republic, marking the definitive end of one of the most influential Hellenistic empires. Though the Seleucid state ultimately crumbled, its impact resonated far beyond its demise. Its influence shaped the political, cultural, and intellectual landscape of the Hellenistic and Middle Eastern worlds, leaving a legacy that persisted in the institutions and traditions of successor states. The fusion of Greek and Eastern elements that defined the Seleucid era would continue to shape civilizations long after its rulers had vanished from the political stage. One of the empire's most significant contributions was its role in transmitting and preserving Hellenistic culture across a vast and diverse region. Cities founded or expanded under Seleucid rule, such as Antioch and Seleucia on the Tigris, became thriving centers of Greek learning, philosophy, and the arts. These urban hubs fostered a cosmopolitan environment where Greek and Eastern traditions intertwined, influencing architecture, religious practices, and artistic expression. Even after the empire's fall, the cultural syncretism it nurtured persisted, laying the foundation for the intellectual developments of later periods. In the realm of science and scholarship, Seleucid influence was profound. The empire's patronage of scholars and institutions allowed the continuation of Greek scientific traditions, while also facilitating exchanges with Eastern knowledge systems. Astronomical studies in Mesopotamia benefited from Greek methodologies, while advances in medicine and engineering spread across Seleucid territories. This cross-cultural fertilization enriched the broader Hellenistic world and influenced subsequent developments in Roman and Byzantine scientific thought. Administratively, the Seleucid approach to governance provided a model that endured beyond its rule. The use of satrapal divisions, inspired by Achaemenid practices yet infused with Hellenistic administrative principles, demonstrated a sophisticated method of managing a sprawling, multi-ethnic empire. The careful balancing of central authority with regional autonomy foreshadowed later governance structures employed by the Romans and Byzantines, who refined and adapted these principles to their own expansive dominions. The Seleucid legacy was also evident in the political and military strategies of later empires. The Roman Republic, having directly engaged the Seleucids in warfare and diplomacy, absorbed many of their military tactics, particularly their use of combined arms strategies that incorporated phalanx formations, cavalry, and war elephants. Additionally, Rome's treatment of conquered territories was informed by Seleucid precedents, particularly in the realm of urbanization and the establishment of colonies to secure strategic regions. Despite its fragmentation, the former Seleucid territories retained elements of its influence for centuries. The regions once ruled by the empire continued to bear the hallmarks of its cultural and political imprint, from the administrative practices in Parthian and Sasanian Persia to the enduring Greek influence in cities across Syria and Mesopotamia. Even as political control shifted, the Seleucid era remained a pivotal chapter in the broader historical narrative of the ancient world. In the broader context of world history, the Seleucid legacy is one of synthesis and adaptation. It demonstrated the resilience of Greek traditions while also showcasing the enduring influence of Persian and Mesopotamian administrative systems. The empire's achievements in governance, warfare, and cultural integration laid a foundation that subsequent empires, Roman, Byzantine, and even Islamic, would build upon in different ways. Its influence was not merely confined to its own era but echoed across centuries of statecraft and cultural development. Though the Seleucid Empire eventually faded from the world stage, its impact remains undeniable. It was more than a successor state of Alexander's conquests. It was a crucible of cultural and political fusion, a testament to the complexities of empire building, and a reminder of the ever-shifting balance of power in the ancient world. Its story, though often overshadowed by Rome and other Hellenistic kingdoms, is an essential chapter in the grand narrative of human civilization.